Following the direct orders of Genghis Khan, Generals Jebe and Subutai set off on one of the most extraordinary military expeditions in history. This incredible journey would cement the legend of the Mongol cavalry as an unstoppable force, feared across continents. The rules of this campaign were clear. Any city that surrendered would be spared, as long as they paid tribute in gold, goods, or livestock. Any city that resisted would be destroyed without mercy. Their first major target was the Persian city of Qazvin, located in what is today Tehran province, Iran. Qazvin was known for its Persian population and was especially famous for its carpet and silk industry. But the people of Qazvin refused to surrender. Proud of their Persian heritage, they chose to fight back, even launching guerrilla-style surprise attacks on Mongol troops. That decision sealed their fate. Jebe and Subutai ordered an all-out assault. The city was captured quickly, and the Mongols killed 40,000 people. They looted a massive amount of wealth and resources. After the fall of Qazvin, the Mongol army moved toward Tabriz, a major city in northwestern Iran, also referred to in some sources as Tiflis. This time, the message had gotten through. The leaders and nobles of Tabriz had heard about what happened to Qazvin, and they didn't want the same fate. So they sent envoys to the Mongol camp offering peace, along with a generous tribute of gold, silver, livestock, and supplies. Jebe and Subutai gladly accepted. They signed an agreement and promised to leave the city unharmed. From there, the Mongol army pushed onward, moving west toward the Caspian Sea and preparing to cross into the Caucasus Mountains. As winter set in, Jebe and Subutai decided to camp and rest on the open grasslands near the Caspian coast. There, the Mongols and their horses waited out the snow and cold, preparing for the next phase of their mission. Then, in the spring of 1221, as the grass began to grow and livestock gave birth to calves and lambs, they resumed their advance, this time into the mountainous kingdom of Georgia. Historically, the region was also known as the Land of Gurjistan, and it was a classic Caucasus mountain nation. The Caucasus Mountains, stretching from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, are rugged, wild, and unforgiving. The people who live there, Georgians, Chechens, and others, have a reputation for being tough, proud, and fiercely independent. These are warrior societies, shaped by the harsh terrain around them. Even today, we can see echoes of that spirit in the way these peoples resist outside control. Writers and historians have long described the Caucasus as a place where freedom runs deep, and no one bows easily to empires or kings. So, what happens when the Mongol war machine, the most feared force on Earth, comes face to face with the fearless mountain tribes of the Caucasus? That we'll uncover in the next episode. After crossing into the Caucasus Mountains, Generals Jebe and Subutai led 20,000 Mongol cavalry into the Kingdom of Georgia. The Georgian king, George IV, Lasha Georgi, quickly mobilized 30,000 troops to resist them. The two sides clashed in a major battle on the plains south of Tbilisi. But the result was just like so many others. The Georgians were defeated and retreated into the mountains. Jebe and Subutai thought the campaign was basically over, but they were wrong. As the Mongol army advanced deeper into the region, they were caught off guard. The local highlanders refused to give up. They didn't face the Mongols in open battle. Instead, they launched a guerrilla war. Using the rugged terrain, thick forests, and harsh weather to their advantage, the mountain fighters constantly harassed the Mongols. They fired arrows from a distance, set fire to the Mongols' supply trains, and then vanished into the hills. These attacks weren't deadly, but they were frustrating. The Mongols were forced to stop and restart their march over and over again, which drove Jebe and Subutai crazy. Eventually, they had enough. They pulled back into northern Iran to rest and regroup, saving the final blow for later. While recovering, the Mongols returned to Tabriz, where they were once again welcomed warmly with gifts of livestock, gold, and silk. This reminded JB and Subutai of a nearby city they had visited before, Hamadan. They had collected tribute there the year before and remembered how wealthy it was. So they decided to return and ask for more. But this time the people of Hamadan refused. They thought, "We already paid you once. What do you want now? Even landlords run out of grain eventually." Jebe didn't take no for an answer. If peace didn't work, force would. He launched an attack on the city. The Mongols quickly captured Hamadan, looted everything of value, and slaughtered much of the population. After resting in Iran for about a month, the Mongols once again marched into Georgia. But this time with a plan. Jebe and Subutai decided to set a trap. Jebe and his men hid in a narrow mountain valley, while Subutai led a smaller force to openly provoke the Georgians. When the Georgian army took the bait and came out to fight, Subutai's men pretended to retreat. The Georgians had never read The Art of War. Thinking they were about to wipe out a Mongol unit, they chased after them with 30,000 troops right into the trap. As soon as the Georgians entered the valley, Jebe's hidden forces sprang into action, attacking from both the front and rear. Caught in a double ambush, the entire Georgian army was wiped out. King George IV barely escaped and fled back to Tbilisi, where he stayed behind the walls, too afraid to fight in the open ever again. Since the mountain terrain made cavalry warfare difficult, JB and Subutai decided not to waste more time fighting small, stubborn enemies in Georgia. Instead, they turned north, leading their forces through the Caucasus Mountains and into Russian territory. The next chapter of the Mongol invasion was about to begin. After defeating the Georgian army, Subutai and JB led their Mongol cavalry across the Caucasus Mountains and into the southern Russian steppes. They had started this journey from Central Asia with 20,000 riders, and after numerous battles, around 18,000 were still in fighting shape. Where there are wide open steppes, there are always nomadic tribes, and here the main powers were the Kipchaks, also called Cumans, and the Alans. The Kipchaks were of Turkic origin. Their ancestors once lived on the Mongolian and Central Asian steppes. During the Tang dynasty in China, the Eastern and Western Turkic Khaganates were powerful rivals. Even the early Tang emperors had to pay tribute to them. It wasn't until Emperor Taizong strengthened the Tang military and General Li Jing defeated the Eastern Turks that the power shifted. Later, General Su Dingfang crushed the Western Turks. After those defeats, many Turkic tribes migrated westward, eventually settling north of the Caucasus Mountains on the rich grasslands of the Russian steppe. The Alans, on the other hand, were indigenous to the region. They had lived there for centuries and were not newcomers like the Kipchaks. Naturally, the Kipchaks and Alans didn't always get along. As neighboring nomadic tribes, they often fought over grazing lands and water sources. But now, with the Mongols approaching, they set aside their differences. The Kipchaks and Alans formed an alliance, ready to fight a common enemy. After all, even if they had their own disputes, they didn't want outsiders, especially Mongols, claiming their homeland. On both sides, the armies were made up of skilled horse archers. The Mongols were famous for their deadly accuracy. But the Kipchak-Alan alliance wasn't weak either. They were seasoned fighters, used to steppe warfare. So how would JB and Subutai defeat them? This is where their brilliance as commanders truly showed. They didn't rely on brute force. They used strategy, specifically deception and manipulation. First, they sent envoys to the Kipchaks, trying to drive a wedge between them and the Alans. The message was simple: we come from the same roots. Our ancestors lived on the same steppes in the east. We're like family. Why should we fight each other over strangers like the Alans? They even added a tempting promise. Help us defeat the Alans, and the entire steppe will be yours. We're just passing through. To seal the deal, the Mongols sent lavish gifts, gold, silver, and treasures, to the Kipchak leaders. And it worked. The Kipchaks, blinded by greed, betrayed the Alans. Once the Alans were left alone, the Mongols quickly crushed them, capturing vast amounts of wealth, livestock, horses, and women. The Kipchaks were thrilled. They believed the steppe was now theirs. But that night, the Mongols struck again. In a surprise midnight attack, they turned on the Kipchaks and completely shattered their forces. Many were killed, and the Mongols took back all the treasure they had just given them, plus even more. The Kipchak leader barely escaped, fleeing with his surviving warriors to the land of the Rus, where he had family ties. He sought help from his son-in-law, the Grand Prince of Vladimir Suzdal. The prince agreed to form an army to avenge him, and soon an alliance of 80,000 Rus and Kipchak warriors was assembled. But what happened next? Could JB and Subutai survive a clash with such a massive force? We'll find out in the next episode.